Are you ready to lime? We're liming with Miss Universe 1998, Wendy Fitzwilliam. She's a celebrity, she's a supermodel, she's an entrepreneur, a lawyer, and she's a mother. Wendy Fitzwilliam and I will be chatting, laughing, smiling, reflecting about everything under the sun. This is real Caribbean style fun. Join me and Wendy Fitzwilliam on Liming with Monique on Carib Nation TV. I'll begin with our introduction because a fabulous celebrity like Wendy Fitzwilliam deserves a fabulous introduction. And I have to read this one because Wendy is such a phenomenal woman and has accomplished so much that I can't remember everything that she has done. A native of my beautiful country, Trinidad and Tobago, Wendy became the third woman of color and the second Trinidadian woman to win the Miss Universe crown. Wendy won the crown just 2 months before her final exam at law school, and she was admitted to the Trinidad and Tobago bar in the year 2000. Wendy has a rich career in entertainment and served as host and co-executive producer of Caribbean's Next Top Model. She also connected with her fans and listeners on her own radio show, The Wendy Fitzwilliam Show. In addition to her extensive career in entertainment, Wendy has had numerous executive positions, including public sector leadership positions, such as the Vice President of Business Development with ETEC of Trinidad and Tobago and the Government of the United Republic of Tanzania. Wendy also has, surprise, surprise, a heart of gold. He served as the United Nations Goodwill Ambassador for HIV/AIDS and founded the Hibiscus Foundation, a children's foundation that focuses on HIV/AIDS. Of course, I've saved Wendy's most important and rewarding role for last. Wendy is mother to a beautiful son, Alan, and wrote Letters to Alan, a memoir recording her unconditional love for her son. Wow, Wendy, you are truly a phenomenal woman, and I get to line with you today. Welcome, Wendy. Are you ready to line?
I am ready to lime, Monique. What an introduction. Thank you. I hope this interview lives up to that introduction.
It's all true. I didn't pick up anything there. It's all true, and I'm sure there's so much that we've left out. So, Wendy, I want to start with a big question. This is the burning question that all women have. From the time we were little girls, we all wondered. So I'm going to take you back to 1998. Tell us, Wendy, what happens after you've been crowned and you do your royal wave and you walk, and everybody congratulates you. What happens when you exit the stage? Like, take us through those first days and weeks and months after you've been crowned Miss Universe.
Miss Universe. So, Monique, what a wonderful question. And something that happens regularly in the United States that I think most people are more familiar with, the inauguration of the new president. And Michelle Obama in her book explains how very quickly that transition takes place, right? Like, you live as president literally until the morning. You meet the new one at the White House and you have a little bit of tea and blah, blah, blah. And then you do the official part of the handover. And then the outgoing president takes off in the helicopter Marine One for the last time. And the new one and everything is like done. Honestly, Americans excel at that. That's exactly what being crowned Miss Universe is like. Pre-winning the competition, you're sharing a room. The delegates are doubled up in hotel rooms wherever the competition is taking place in the world. My one, fortunately, was in Hawaii. And after you do the press conference, the coronation ball, etc., and you're taken back to your hotel. You, of course, as soon as that crown is put on your head, a security team steps into place, and the company's travel managers and chaperones, etc. You introduce to them immediately, and they become your life after that moment. And when I got back to my hotel, I was so surprised to see all of my belongings in the presidential suite at the hotel in Oahu, Hawaii. And exactly, thank God I'm a neat freak, because of course I didn't know this before winning. And if I were not, and if I had left things, all over the place, clothing all over the place, underwear, toothpaste undone, it would have been exactly as I had left it in my little room that I shared with my darling roommate, Miss South Africa. They moved everything in that time to the suite, right? And it was set up exactly as I had my room set up before, downstairs the hotel. And I have to say, it was really a wonderful experience working with that company. I don't know if every title holder's experience is the same, but certainly, with the young woman with whom I keep in touch, our little sisterhood, the company really did a good job of protecting us, training us to deal with media. I was fortunate that I was a student attorney at the time. I had to do moot court and argue a case or two in front of judges from around the Caribbean, not knowing, as we say here, your rump from your elbow. So, faking it until you make it was a specialty of mine heading in. But the company really did a good job of taking care of us and making sure that you did feel rather special. It's a very difficult job. People always forget that. Being Miss Universe is a full-time job. Once you're on the road, which of your 365 days oddly for the year, you're on the road for maybe 320 of those days. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not easy, but it's also fun. It's life altering. I always say as well, unlike a well-known personality who has achieved success for a particular skill, like Beyonce's and Rihanna, phenomenal singers and actors. So you show up to do a job. When you're on the road touring, you show up, you do media, you do a sound check, you make sure everything is perfect, you perform, and then you move on to the next city, usually. Seeing where you are usually is not incorporated built into that travel, that experience. And as Miss Universe, it is. So you work very hard, but you make lasting friendships because you are afforded the opportunity. You become well known for just being you. And the variety of activities you participate in, hosting gigs, photo shoots, meeting with world leaders, launching campaigns for whatever you firmly believe in. It's a really wonderful temporary job. You cannot have a better one.
Wow. So Wendy, what are some of, I'm so happy that you shared these insights, because we see the glitz and the glamour and the dress up and all of that, but I don't think everyone really appreciates the significance of the impact that you have in that year and the impact that you are able to make on hearts and minds around the world. What are some of the lessons that you learned during that year?
Well, that's a great question because you live it's such a fast-paced experience that you almost can't appreciate all of it in real time and the kind of impact you have. I was, yes, the third woman of color, but officially the second Black woman to win Miss Universe, and I am not anything other than a Black woman. And I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, which is so rarely celebrated. So for a long time, between Penny and myself, there had been roughly 2 generations of persons. Diana Ross was very huge, and I remember as a kid very much admiring her. But you don't see women like me celebrated every day, every decade even. Yeah. And but coming from Trinidad and Tobago, and I imagine a lot of the Caribbean is like this, you only appreciate your upbringing when you are outside of it. Do you know what I mean? So as a Trini, I see this in Jamaica. I studied in Barbados. I love St. Lucia, so I spend a lot of time there, Grenada, everywhere. There's an ease about the Caribbean lifestyle that has very little to do with the hot sun and the pretty beaches and the good rum.
True.
That is definitely a wonderful element of where we come from, but I've also spent a lot of time in the tropics elsewhere, in Asia, etc. And the ease with which we live really serves us in good stead. So if you look at a lot of the people like me, black people, not visiting blackness, we can't dip in and out. We are blackety black. Right? The Sidney Poitiers of
Yes,
the
we are.
world,
Yes.
the Cicely Tysons of the world. And not only in America, in Europe and elsewhere, a lot of us have Caribbean roots. And I think that confidence is as a result of the way in which we are raised. There isn't a shyness here. I didn't appreciate this. I have friends of all walks of life. My dad was a fireman, my mom was a teacher, but very, very confident. There was no place in my country I didn't feel comfortable going. And our exposure was so complete. My mom grew up in central Trinidad in a tiny village dominated by Hindus. Her best friend to this day, from childhood, from the time she opened her eyes when she was born to now, is my auntie Claire Tilak Singh. And that comfort lent itself to a confidence that I couldn't appreciate until I left here. So the ease with which I move through the world, and not just me, I find most of my people, like Usain Bolt at the end of a race doing that takes belly, but he didn't even realize it. It was just instinctive. Do you know what I mean? Rihanna rocking that fabulous Bajan accent all over the planet wherever she goes. All of her shows up every time she shows up. Do you know what I mean? And that I didn't appreciate during there. It was after, like when I returned to Trinidad, after giving up my title, I was a little bit naughty when I participated in Miss Universe, but with the consent of the law school at the time. I was in my final year of preparations to become an attorney, to be admitted to the bar here. And the competition happened during study break. So if I lost, I could have easily come back to Trinidad and written my exams. And I won. And therein was a dilemma. One of the first questions I asked the company was, I have to write exams. I have spent 5 years studying this thing. I need to finish. So we worked out a little deal with the law school, which afforded me the opportunity to come home and focus for 3 months and write my exams. I didn't have to repeat my year. And this is a very roundabout way of saying the confidence in doing that kind of thing, in the way we carry ourselves. This is what you see as Wendy is what you get. There is no PR machinery behind me. I have one guy who's worked for me since I handed over my crown, worked with me, my manager Tyrone, largely. But I do a lot of my own work, my own negotiations and that kind of thing. And the confidence to do that, really I appreciated after, I would, anywhere I go in the world, in Latin America, for example, in 2010, I took my son to Cartagena for New Year's. I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but I love that culture, and Colombia is beautiful. So I decided Aileen and I are going to Cartagena, and my sister was like, you're crazy, you can't speak a lick of Spanish, I'm coming with you. And, there are a lot of people who look like me in Latin America, but they are not celebrated as much. Do you know what I mean? There are a lot of Afro-Colombians and Brazilians. The largest population of Black people outside of Africa and our part of the world is actually in Brazil. And always something that I didn't appreciate was the impact I had on people who looked like me. Still, raising Aileen, I've kept a very low profile for the last few years because getting him safely through the teen years has been number one priority. And even so, the fact that I've been out of the public eye for a few years, people still come up to me everywhere. And tell me how much that win meant to them, to see that crown being placed on the head of a woman that looked like them. That could be their mother, sister, tanti, nenen. but also the way I carried myself when I opened my mouth to take on Bill Maher or Bill O'Reilly. What is it with the Bills? Love them all, but when they're interviewing you, as we say in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, constant jamming. But I took them on in very much the same way I would take on my dad's friends in debates or my lecturers, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that ease, entering the US culture, interacting with both conservative and liberal media, being asked about my ugly toes on my first interview in Barcelona, Spain, and having a witty comeback. Yes, I was a dancer from the age of 3 until I was 16, and I'm not a tiny girl. I did classical ballet. So the feet are jacked. From the ankles up, it looks good. But darling, from the ankles to the tippy toes, pressure. And I've gotten a little bit of slack for the busted feet over the years. They've improved significantly. But that said, the confidence to interact and not fall apart in situations like that, I think, as I said, when you're living that experience, you don't appreciate the impact you have on others. And only after I was able to appreciate my upbringing in its richness and its fullness.
Wendy, you spoke about so much in the last few seconds. You spoke about an appreciation for a multicultural environment in which we were raised, right?
Yes.
An appreciation for diversity, an appreciation for our color, for Blackness. And you also spoke about confidence. And, I have this favorite quote, which is that she did it because nobody told her she couldn't do it, right? So
Correct.
I remember even when I first moved here to Washington, D.C. 16 years ago, I was raised in an environment where we saw Black people in leadership, right?
Exactly.
That's how we were raised. So when I got here and people said, well, you're a minority, I'm like, a minority in what? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I've been seeing these people, my color, doing this all my life. So, and the other point I want to make before we move on to the next question is that people looked at you that night and they saw what they perceived to be overnight success. But there is no such thing as overnight success because you were really born for this. By nature of your being born in Trinidad and Tobago and you're being raised in that environment, you were prepared for this. But there was another form of preparation. And I'm going to take you back to St. Joseph's Convent, Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, which is the best high school on the planet, because we convent girls.
Amen.
Amen.
I still rock my convent ring. Do not notice.
Yes. So grateful for that beginning. And Wendy, we did a lot of liming and partying, but we studied hard, real hard, right? That's our message, and we sticking to it. But seriously, what is some of the preparation that you enjoyed at St. Joseph's Convent that has really driven or accounts for much of your success? By way of the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, your approach to life, your work ethic. Tell us a bit about that.
Monique, the convent experience is bar none, still one of the greatest. I am so grateful for my high school experience here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm part of the Past People's Association, and most people join when they start to have children and their kids start to attend the school too and that kind of thing. I have a son. There's no chance of me having a daughter that will go to convent at this point.
Never say never.
I know, but I am very determined to keep that shop closed. Alan is 15, doing very well. We have a great thing going. I'm good. That said, I feel obligated to give back to SJC, to St. Joseph's Convent, Port of Spain, because it really, really informed who I am to a large extent. That confidence of which I spoke has a lot to do with our then principal. I was there at the time of Sister Paul, who was amazing, God rest her soul. Sister Paul, long after I left convent, we would, and many of us did it, we would go chat with her, talk to anything going on in our lives, any major decisions we had to make. She used to say to us almost every weekly at assembly, and if she caught us being naughty, like I was a little bit naughty, as you said, convent girls also know how to line very well.
Yes,
But
we
we know how to balance. We study hard because the school is so psychotically competitive, So like in my primary school, I was never less than third in tests. If I slacked off in a school term, I would be third behind my sister, who was consistently first and drove me crazy.
I know Jenny
And
is
one of
a
my and one of my girlfriends at SJC, I never got higher than 12th in my class in that school. And that's because the best in our country goes to that school. Everybody wants to go there. So, the difference between being number 1 and being number 20 could be in your overall average 1.5% or something ridiculous like that. The competition is so intense. So that level of competition was very good for me. Not everyone would thrive in that environment. It was great for you, obviously. But it was a fiercely competitive environment, but a fiercely nurturing environment as well. So the relationship I had with my teachers, I remember struggling. I still struggle with languages. I'm determined by my 50th birthday to be speaking French fluently because I love it and I suck at it. And I'm like, I'm going to conquer this language. I'm going to speak French as beautifully as Brigitte Macron. But that said, the reason why I feel there's such a warm, fuzzy feeling for French, even though I failed it miserably at Convent, was because my French teachers, all of them, saw that I liked it and made an effort. So even though they knew that I was probably the weakest student in their class, I remember Miss Mohammed and Miss Rousseau and, Miss Fojo taking the time to just, help and be there. And if, as I said, post my convent experience, if they saw any skill that I was not as confident about, perhaps, and not just me, my friends, they saw us being a little bit naughty, they always found the positive, is what I'm trying to say, in whatever we were doing. At Form 5, after Form 5 graduation, I was very, very naughty, as we all are. We write upon our shirts, we lead a revolt, we invite the beautiful St. Mary's boys from across the street to hang out with us at school, which is absolutely illegal, and next thing I'm the captain of St. Joseph's House in Form 6, and I'm like, but how?
That's right.
In my head, I am not the number 1 candidate to lead a house. Furthermore, St. Joseph's House, you know what I mean? With the responsibility of preparing feast day preparations, mass, and this, I was like, woo! But that is what I love about the convent experience. It's a true community. And our teachers were really, really committed. The school offered so many activities, and again, because of the way our educational system is set up, the creme de la creme wants to go to public school. They want to go to that special creature we have in the Caribbean, which is the school started by religious organizations, run by religious organizations, but assisted by the state, which allows for a mixture of everyone. So I went to school with the kids of diplomats, our leaders, our ministers of government, etc., as well as kids like me, whose daddy was a fireman, mom a teacher, public servants, you name it. Once you were bright, you were there.
So true.
And all of us were treated equally. If you were like me, as I said, and again, it's because of their bringing. I remember my dad, throwing me off my godfather's boat down the islands, my sister and I, and we couldn't swim at the time. And my mother used to say to him every weekend, if any of my children drown in that water, go after them, do not come back. Right?
Because he would just pretty mother.
Yes, because he would just throw us into the water, and we would hang out and splash around with him and that kind of thing. And that confidence, I think, was nurtured in the convent environment. As disciplined as convent was, you had to wear your uniform properly. By Form 3, the badge slipped down a little bit to the, your decolletage. And Sister Paul would make sure my badge is back up here by your throat. So there was a wonderful mix of discipline, of understanding how to carry yourself well, of strength in your femininity. That's something that I found at our time. That has changed a lot. We're seeing the appreciation of individuals as individuals now with the LGBTQ plus movement and the acceptance of everyone, the acceptance of everyone as they are, celebrating everyone as they are.
Which is
But Convent was ahead of its time in that regard to me, because I never felt like there was not a place for me. I was not a science math geek, which was celebrated at the time I was in high school, and now it's business more than science. But at that time it was science, and they celebrated my desire as well to do art, my desire as well, to excel in modern studies and that kind of thing. I did art for A levels, and I didn't do art for O levels, and which upset my father to no end, because he was in Canada at the time doing some work on behalf of the fire service of Trinidad and Tobago, which was a perfect opportunity for me when I was choosing subjects to do whatever I wanted.
Get away.
So I always wanted to be a lawyer, and I loved fashion, loved fashion from childhood. And I started modeling. My first paid modeling gig was when I was 11 years old. And so it sort of happened in that regard, because we didn't have a real modeling industry in Trinidad. We're too small for that to a large extent. And and I loved fashion. And just before writing my exams, I learned to sew. And I mean everything, cut my own patterns, draping, the whole nine. I did a professional course. And Sister Paul, I had a conversation with her when I was choosing my subjects, because my dean was like, okay, you're a little bit of a problem. I think you need to see the principal. Because they thought, given the subjects I had done well in, that I would do like English literature, history, geography, those kind of subjects, and possibly principles of business or management of business for A levels. I decided I am doing art, history, business, and they were like, art? But there is no art before today. I was like, but I've been very quietly doing fashion design and surface textile design on my own, and I think I can do it. And she let me do it. So when I sent to my father in Canada the list of art supplies I needed for A levels, he freaked out. He was like, dye, cotton, what are these things?
Wendy, that individuality and that individuality, that sense of femininity and that sense of strength in being your own person, you have really taken that throughout your life, and you have built on it to your success today. And we have just a few more minutes in this line, and there are a few questions that I know everybody wants to know, so I have to ask you
quick.
questions.
Yes.
So 3 quick questions before we close out. Firstly, how do you see, let's fast forward now to 2021. We've looked at the past, we've looked at high school, we looked at Miss Universe. How is Wendy now? What does your life look like now? You have achieved so much, Wendy, but I know you have so much more that you want to be. What does life look like for you now? And where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
Monique, that's a great question. I am actually, you caught me at a time when I'm in transition, in all honesty. My son takes off to boarding school in the US in 1 month. We leave to set him up. He's now 15, so he's done his first 3 years at Fatima College here, and he's ready to transition. He wants to, so I'm sending him, and we're both excited about this next phase. But I'm also now ready to spread my wings again. So I love working with state. Another aspect of my life that I did not discuss so far today is the work that I've always done in supporting others. That's a very big part of a convent and a Catholic upbringing. I would like to continue that. The work that I have done with the state, my recently concluded engagement with UTT was to really help. This is the University of Trinidad and Tobago. The university get two of their projects to commercialize some of the innovation coming out of the university up and running. And that kind of thing really fulfills me. So I'm literally deciding what I'm going to do come October 2021. Will it be with the UN? Will it be with my government or another government? Because I really enjoy state work. But it has to be the kind of work that I can see tangible results. I'm not a paper pusher, and paper is very important. Don't get me wrong. I could write a wicked report and a proposal. But that said, I'm the kind of person who also needs to see very deliberately progress within a certain timeline, 12 months, 36 months, whatever it is. We need to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and I can see some progress in whatever area I'm working at a particular time. So that's one, very important. I'm going to write again. Everybody has asked me, well, I have been writing, but not nearly as consistently as I should. You never stop if you're a writer, I've come to realize. But it's time for another book. Everyone has been asking me, after Letters to Elan, when are we getting the next one? I'm like, darling, I'm busy living part 2. Give me a minute. But now that my son is taking off to boarding school for high school, I can devote a little bit more time to writing. So that's definitely on the cards. And then this pandemic has taught me the importance of simplicity. I'm at the phase now where I plan to downsize my life a little bit and explore the world in a way in which I have not before. So even though I talked about, and even post Miss Universe, I've been very fortunate. Almost everything I've done has kept me on the road non-stop. Last year was the first year that I spent more than 30 days in one place. That's a long time.
Very long.
Yes. So I enjoy travel tremendously. That's very much a part of Wendy moving forward, but it's going to be a little bit different. My plan is to continue to take on projects now that Elan will be at school and he's from there's college, and I won't have to worry so much about making sure I'm home to take care of my son, and that I would like to. I'm exploring taking on more projects elsewhere, places that I've not been.
Wonderful. So Wendy, you are really focusing on fulfilling your destiny, and what a blessing that is. And I'm just so honored to have this conversation with you, because this is what life is really about, right? It's about doing the work that we were brought here to do. And as part of that, I have to ask you, which is our last question, about self-care. Now, you still look like 1998, by the way.
I think you're just biased.
I don't know what your diet regime is. I have a diet regimen where, I'm on, most days I'm on a seafood diet, which is I see and I eat it, right? But you obviously on a different kind of regimen from me. So as we wrap up, Wendy, because I know so many women would be inspired to hear about this. Tell us how you maintain this radiance and this glow. Tell us how you take care of yourself.
Monique, you're very sweet. Thank you. But I have to say that you are delightfully blind Trinbagonian, and that is what we call tutulbe. You love me, I love you, so therefore you see what you want to see. That said, I do take care of myself. I work out. I love the outdoors. I never loved gyms. I walk, I skip, that kind of thing. I've just find time to do it wherever. Since the pandemic started, I've gotten into yoga as you get older with self-care. Your self-care has to change. You cannot spin and go as manically with heavy weights as you did when you were
Thank you
younger.
so much for saying that.
My Lord, you just like you evolve, your body physically evolves, you mentally evolve, you spiritually evolve, your workout regime must evolve, as well as what you eat. I still love my desserts. I have like the wickedest sweet tooth, okay? I love ice cream. Up until I would say my 40th birthday, I ate ice cream every single day of my life. Even when I was competing at Miss Universe, my chaperone knew to run to the Haagen-Dazs in the hotel shop and get me every night a pint of vanilla ice cream so I could knock that back before I go to bed. That said, at 40, I realized the ice cream stuck around a little longer. So I have found substitutes. I start my day with hot water and lemon every single morning. And then I go nuts from lunchtime. I'm not a big breakfast person. Lunch is my biggest meal, like a good West Indian. Only if I'm going to a dinner party, I eat after 6 p.m. and I pick. I don't eat a lot of food after 6 p.m. And then it's your mentality, you know. Again, we West Indians, we people of the Caribbean, Carnival plays a very, very big part in all of our cultures. I cannot afford to fall apart. My people will never forgive me.
You're right about that. And Trini speak their mind. I mean, they'll meet you up in the street and tell you exactly what they're seeing. No holds barred.
God, and again, coming back to the point I made earlier about that fluidity in our society, you know, there's an organization here in Trinidad that my son and I, once a week, they do it every single night. Even today, even though we're in curfew, they're out on the streets feeding the homeless. The Sai Baba community, Port of Spain. Even though I'm very Catholic, I love the Sai Baba community. So we, on a Tuesday night usually, Aileen and I go out and we feed the homeless in Port of Spain, and they keep me in check. There are a few guys that I know now who say to me, Miss Wendy, what's going on there, girl? That face a little chunky.
Oh my God.
You have to cut back a little bit. Too much cake.
Listen, Trinis are the quickest to tell you your body is slamming. You're slamming into doors and walls. They're the
Yes!
And Wendy,
but they do it with such love, Monique. They do it with such love. So for my guys on George Street and Independence Square who are down on their luck, I pull myself together for them, you know, and if I'm getting a little bit chunky, they keep me in check.
It's all a one love. Well, listen, Wendy, this was a wonderful note. We ended on laughter. I've learned so much from you, and I'm just so honored that you joined us today. I've really enjoyed liming with you, Wendy. Thank you, and I know our audience did too.
Monique, I've so enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Lovely meeting you, and this was a great lime. Thank you.
Yay!